So I just broke my glass kettle that I use every day. Whew. And there's alarms and sirens, and it is a call to attention, to the psyche being pressurized is how I now have come to interpret, to be with shattered glass. I have a trail of shattered glass behind me in my past, as perhaps you can relate to. And they're signposts for me to bow to. And in bowing, the hands press together at heart center. All of the pressure bringing us back to center. Letting go of everything. Trusting connection to this center. The center line, the center column, the center of your psyche, the center of your heart, the center of your sacral. Holding you at attention in all of the tensions. And we get away from that place. We get busy. We get trying to take responsibility for a whole bunch of things. When I just broke glass, my hands were full and I was balancing things and I was attempting actually to save something else. Very easy for me to have made 2 trips. Classic metaphor and classic move that I'm sure you can relate to. Carrying too much. And trying to be, effective or efficient in this almost cutting corners way of not doing the thing that you know you need to do. I needed to just put one thing down and take a few extra steps. That metaphor stretches and stretches into all of our realms. And often, the step that we most need is simply to pause and take a deep breath. And to not neglect the exhale. Discharge. Discharge. All the way up into source. And all the way back through your body, also plugging into the earth. Into the earth. Into the earth. Yes. A psychiatrist once made the metaphorical reference to the psyche as a piece of glass. And for neurodivergent people, it's thinner, so it's more shatterable. And he was almost suggesting that it can handle less pressure but how I understand it, and that we ought to attempt to thicken the glass to be more normal. But he also associated normal with neurotic, which is often very anxious and depressed and not moving enough energy. And the glass is stagnant, or the glass is thick because there's a solid or a stagnant identity. I almost want to use those words interchangeably. There is my suggestion. Where it's easier to maintain a steady character, and where there doesn't have to be so much rigidity and attachment to routine, because having a steady routine is more natural for that thick slab of glass. Sending love out to all the people living that way, if that is their soul path this lifetime. I'm imagining that most people gathering here would relate more to a thin piece of glass that is rather shatterable and that requires a lot of attachment to attempt to maintain routines or rituals or regular rhythms for functioning. And that still the pressure builds up when there's not enough energy circulation, because the thin glass is actually simply an indicator of how essential circulation is for our systems. It is natural to be very lighthearted. And that is a match for the thin glass. But it's a flexible, open identity that hasn't fit in with mainstream expectations of being more dense and solid and heavy and serious and concerned. So a lot of really natural people who have natural access to lighthearted, optimistic possibility take on density and concern and get really stressed and over-pressurize their system and don't get enough circulation because the mainstream certainly isn't encouraging it, and we have to go against the grain to make sure that we get it, and the glass shatters. It used to shatter for me. I would only notice when it was happening inside myself. And this is like, now I'm at the place where life gives me warning signs. I will get a new kettle. I actually noticed in making a fire the other day that the store down the street gave me a flyer which I used to make a fire, and these kettles are on half price, which is nice. That came to mind right away. I still grieve the loss or the waste of a perfectly good kettle that didn't have to get smashed. If I chose to listen to the intuition that arose to go slow and spacious, as opposed to attempting one load of rickety, precarious, balancing act that betrayed my intuition. The glass will always break when we betray our intuition, because our intuition is guiding us towards the health and wellness of our natural state, and our natural state is that lightheartedness. They can handle having a thin piece of glass as the foundational, as the thing to stand on in the psyche. You can tap dance on that thin glass as long as your heart is light as a feather. You can do anything. When you're infinitely resourced, and it takes an open heart to access the state of being infinitely resourced that is accessible to us all. The need to discharge density, circulate more life force, to clear the pathways and to keep them flowing, is how we access our flexibility and openness. And that is also the cure for the density, the weight, the heaviness that people in either category experience. That kettle also came from someone who's not in my life anymore and actually didn't really treat me that well, even though they loved me. And so sometimes things shatter to let the energy go back into circulation, because we don't even notice how much we're holding on. Sending into the earth. I'm going to do some plucking, some pulling, just from anything that's come up in your field while I've been chatting and working on this subject energetically. I just want you to be free, baby. I want you to have the freedom of having all the density, all the weight, all the worries, all the stress recycled by these big cedar trees out here. And sending it all back to source, which is an infinite well of life force energy for you, for me, for us. And accessing that doesn't take any away from anyone else. It is infinite. And you are a part of that. And what we're plucking and pulling here today is anything in the way of remembering, honoring, embodying, embracing, enjoying that. Good. Give it up. Going really deep. Oh, hoo, hoo, hoo. You know, just any guilt or shame for any time the glass has shattered, you know, as glass or whatever that is a metaphor for you in your behavioral patterns. Give it to me. Any guilt and shame that you can release right now to be recycled. And then we're going to flood these spaces with that fresh life force energy. The shame is parasitic. And there's more coming forward. Because ultimately the universe is very benevolent and all the aspects are working together for divine, you know, inherent, inarguable justice. And there is resistance to that because we've been trained to believe that some things are bad and wrong and to blame. And yet all of those things are part of the justice too. And so take that weight now. The weight of those beliefs that there has to be something to blame. And we're sending it to source. And it is received and recycled like that. Which doesn't invalidate the participation of other people, places, and things in the circumstances that pressurized your internal experience to the point of shatter. And there are not many people on this planet taking full responsibility for themselves, and that does affect each and every one of us. And it can be really tricky to take full responsibility for yourself in that environment. In any intimate environment that contains that truth, and in the world environment that is still really throbbing in that truth. But here we are, claiming our capacity to slice through the BS that it has to be this way or that it will. The words coming to me that I'm resisting are balance itself out without our active participation. With that rejection of the impact, the access to impact that we do have through how we are with our own self. Like just moving energy like we are right now is what I mean, how we are with our own self. How open are we to recycle, to release the density, to be flooded and flow with fresh life force energy in greater and greater volumes and voltages. Excuse me. I hear your resistance. Your call for attention, and resistance will always call for attention, whether it's subtle or loud. And we bring our loving acceptance, attention there. And often that's all it needs to resolve and go back into flow, to be recycled, refreshed, and to come in the form of pure life force energy, revitalizing. Your capacity to be lighthearted in the face of anything, to feel the joy and the freshness of each moment, even as you may also be aware of stacks on stacks on stacks of pressures and perceived responsibilities. This responsibility is at the center of it all, and we can attend to so much, so much, so much, so much all at once through this relationship with ourselves. Which doesn't mean that we're not sometimes silly humans who try to carry too much and have to be reminded that the glass will shatter, because we are still in these finite vessels that have a threshold for what they can handle. And when you're meeting that threshold in your personal system, the benevolent life around you will call your attention to that. And the question is, are you willing to listen? It will come to you in intuitive symbols, messages, synchronicities. Like for me, actual physical shattered glass is this repeating synchronous sign. And I will share with you that in the era where I was having regular, which doesn't mean daily or anything, but in regular waves over linear time, pretty intense meltdowns where I'd be trying to hold a steady identity and function and meet all the tasks required to be that person, etc. And then when extra pressures would come, like say an argument with my partner, co-parent, and all of the electric edginess of them meeting their own threshold met with mine, there were times where I chose to smash glass, going into a completely nonverbal place or communicating from the wisdom of the intuitive nonverbal to communicate what wasn't making it through in words was that the pressure was taking us to a place of crumble, of smashed glass, of having to go back to ground zero, which is what I experience a meltdown as, is just having to let go of everything, and going back into pure connection with source, the earth, with nothingness and everythingness. And in a way, it's a delightful refresh of remembering soulful essence. It's so spacious. And so I'm feeling some temptation in me or in someone or some folks out there, again, of shame. Shame for times of choosing to break something or of following the impulse to smash something, to shred something, to non-verbally communicate the sensations of intensity of meeting that threshold. It's intelligence. That's all I'm going to say about that today. It is intelligent. It may not always be appropriate or particularly safe, depends on the circumstances, but it is intelligence that is worthy of respect and understanding, recognition, and it is in that where those moments become more spacious and more spacious, and where sense of choice in authentic expression becomes more and more available. And I wish that for you. I wish that for myself, and I found that for myself in the language of DCFO, discharge and circulate, for flexibility and openness. And I use DCFO to teach Reiki lifestyle, and to mentor apprentices in really accessing their natural lightheartedness, their thriving optimism at the center of their radiant being, even in the face of everyday life, especially in ongoing exchange with everyday life. letting as much source energy flood all the pathways and pockets of your system now. That your system can thrive with now at the level that you are ready for right now. In trust that that level is in an ongoing evolution that we are playing consciously with here for big picture impact and for personal moment by moment experiencing impact. And wrapping your beautiful body, your energy bubble in gold, Reiki, unconditionally loving, all approving, fear dissolving energy, energy, energy. This cocoon of protection, of integration, of loving unconditional acceptance. And I invite you to check out the description box below. I've included a link to episode 1, a free sample of the transmissions that make up part of the mission experience that go along with the attunements, the bite-sized practices. There's a handbook and these video transmissions. So I've included the video transmission from week 1 as a free sample for you to feel into the flavor and for you to receive the downloads. And may they serve you, your life, your loved ones, your passions, your projects. And I'm here if you want to chat about apprenticeships or anything. My email is also in the description box. And hey, I forgot to mention that mission, or I'm mentioning it now, the mission self-paced option to receive the full master list of content and the 5 attunements from me through the quantum field is $100 off until March 6th. So this is a gift I've given myself. March 3rd is my birthday, and I just wanted to do something to say thank you for being here. Thank you for celebrating me and this authentic expression, and really, really, really appreciate this community and this opportunity. There's also a link to my new Telegram channel if you want to basically read my diary and be in the know of what I'm sharing for free across a variety of platforms day by day. So I am loving you all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way. I really respect this conversation. May you feel revitalized from any shattered glass experiences, and may you revisit this video if you ever need it.